Nea Karlsson is the first DLC character Dead by Daylight had introduced to it as part of the Last Breath chapter alongside the nurse. Since we've now moved past the original characters, the idea of survivors being designed to fulfill specific roles isn't going to apply as much, but Nea has a mixture of stealth and speed going for her, so there is that. Anyway, that's enough preamble. Let's actually talk about what she brings to the table. This is quite possibly the most complicated exhaustion perk in the game, though I'd probably make it sound worse than it is when I say that. Balanced Landing, firstly, serves as another Sprint Burst type perk, with you getting that 50% speed boost for 3 seconds after falling from a great height. This is of course the same as Sprint Burst, just with a more complex activation requirement. And some of you might be thinking that it wouldn't be all that helpful, considering how much falling from a great height usually slows you down, but worry not, the perk has you covered. Alongside the Sprint Burst, Balanced Landing also reduces the stagger duration from falling by 75%. While I can't be sure of exact durations, I can say this pretty much removes the stagger, ensuring that once you land, you can book it almost immediately. On top of that, you also don't make as much noise while falling. The yelp specifically is removed so that your falls are almost completely silent. That's all well and good, but remember how I said this is an exhaustion perk? Yeah, when you activate Balanced Landing by doing a big fall, you'll become exhausted for 40 seconds. That wouldn't be a huge deal by itself, but those benefits regarding fall stagger reduction and noise suppression are also killed by exhaustion, which is quite unfortunate, since that means when you're exhausted, falling functions as normal. But forget everything I just told you. None of that matters, because the thing that really kills this perk is that activation requirement. Falling from great heights is not easy to accomplish, and makes this perk extremely map-dependent. Multi-story maps like Midwich Elementary and The Game work pretty well with this perk, but otherwise all bets are off. Generally speaking, you'll have fewer opportunities to make use of this on older maps, though to be fair, I don't believe there's any maps that don't have at least one spot where you can trigger Balanced Landing. But it's certainly a coin toss as to whether you get a map that works. Even having said that, I wouldn't say this is the worst exhaustion perk, just one that involves a bit of gambling. And I can safely say there is at least one exhaustion perk with a far worse activation condition. This perk is built with item users in mind, providing the bonus of making items lose their charges 15% slower. Basically, this just means that your medkits and toolboxes and such last a little bit longer than usual, which is nice, but not exactly game-changing. Naturally, if you don't use items, you won't get much out of this, but there is also a support element to the perk. If another survivor is within 8 meters of you, they will also benefit from the increased item charges, with the effect persisting for a little while even after they leave. So even if you don't use items, your teammates might still benefit from this, but even with that in mind, you shouldn't waste a perk slot on this if you don't use any items yourself. This is Nea's simplest perk, having one single effect. Your crouch speed is increased by 100%, doubling it. This is pretty nice for stealth, since your crouching speed is basically the same as your walking speed, if not slightly faster. And that can help you get away with hiding next to the killer while they look for you a little longer. That's all I really have to say. This may very well be the simplest and most okay perk in the game. I wouldn't call it a great stealth perk, as there are better options that do more for you, but this certainly isn't a bad choice. Whether it's worth using is largely a matter of personal preference, and sometimes its simple nature works better for some people, so have fun with it. And that's it for Nea's perks. They're not especially great perks, but none of them are terrible, just kinda middling. But I want to know what you think. Is Balanced Landing the worst exhaustion perk? Am I giving Streetwise or Urban Evasion too much credit? Feel free to discuss in the comments, but in the meantime, I have more work to do. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.